Despite the fact that we have a choice in becoming the individuals we want to be, our childhoods undoubtedly influence us to some level. Behavioral patterns are created at an early age and include how we choose to react to certain circumstances and how we express ourselves. When we initially start to learn how to make sense of our surroundings, everyone has a distinct love style depending on their background. Our habits and preferences and how we respond to romantic relationships make up our love style. Understanding how we love, on the other hand, can help us understand how our love styles impact our relationships. Here are Dr. Milan and K. Jurikovic 5 love styles. First, the pleaser. The pleaser is frequently raised in a family where one parent is very protective or angry and critical. Pleasers do everything they can as youngsters to be good and on their best behavior in order to avoid a negative reaction from their parents. Instead of receiving comfort, pleaser children spend their time and energy providing comfort to the reactive parent. Pleasing people makes them uncomfortable, so they avoid confrontation by swiftly giving in or showing remorse. They have a hard time saying no, and in order to avoid uncomfortable confrontations, they may not be truthful and lie to avoid conflict. As children develop into adults, they learn to read the moods of those around them in order to ensure that everyone is happy. Pleasers, on the other hand, might have breakdowns and leave relationships if they are anxious or fear they are always letting someone down. Pleasers frequently overextend themselves, attempting to be all things to all people when this is unrealistic. Instead of setting appropriate limits for themselves, they are more concerned with the wants and needs of others. Pleasers must be honest about their own sentiments rather than striving to do what is required of them in order to establish strong relationships. Second, the victim. The victim is frequently raised in a chaotic environment. Victims learn to be obedient in order to live by focusing less on themselves and remaining undetected. Victim children learn to disappear and be silent at an early age in order to deal with their furious, violent parents. Victim children typically create an imagined world in their brains to deal with the hazards they experience on a daily basis, since being completely present is hard for them. Victims frequently have low self-esteem and suffer from anxiety and depression. They may end up imitating controllers who behave similarly to their parents. Adaptability and flowing with the flow are two skills that victims learn to cope with. They're so used to violence and intense events that experiencing silence makes them feel anxious, since they're waiting for the next explosion. Victims must learn self-love and stand up for themselves when the circumstance demands it, rather than allowing their spouse to walk all over them, in order to establish good, secure relationships. Third, the controller. Because the controller grew up in a family with little protection, they learned to toughen up and take care of themselves. They must always feel in control in order to avoid the vulnerability they felt as a kid from being exposed in adulthood. When they can prevent unpleasant sensations of fear, humiliation, and helplessness, people with this love style believe they are in control. However, because controllers do not identify anger with weakness, they utilize it as a weapon to maintain control. Controllers tend to be rigid, yet they may also be irregular and unpredictable. They hate leaving their comfort zones because it makes them feel vulnerable and exposed. They like to resolve difficulties on their own and want to complete tasks in a specific order. Otherwise, they become furious. Controllers must learn to let go, trust people, and keep their anger in check in order to create solid long-term relationships. Fourth, the vacillator. The vacillator frequently has a parent who is unpredictable. Vacillators learned as youngsters that their needs were not their parents' first concern. Vacillators develop a strong sense of abandonment if they do not receive constant attention from their parents. When a parent eventually decides to devote time and attention to their child, vacillators are typically too furious and exhausted to accept it. As vacillators grow older, they search for the constant affection they were denied as youngsters. Vacillators have a tendency to romanticize new relationships, but if they are disappointed or let down, they become disappointed and distrustful. They frequently feel misunderstood, and their relationships are filled with internal conflict and emotional tension. They are incredibly sensitive and insightful, allowing them to spot even the tiniest changes in others and recognize when individuals are withdrawing. To establish good, lasting relationships, vacillators must learn to pace themselves and get to know someone before committing too quickly and being harmed by their own expectations. Fifth, the avoider. The avoider is frequently raised in a less loving family where independence and self-reliance are valued. As youngsters, avoiders learn to take care of themselves from an early age, putting their feelings and needs on wait in order to cope with their fears of receiving little or no consolation from their parents. Avoiders want their privacy and prefer to depend on reasoning and detachment over their emotions. They become uncomfortable when those around them have extreme mood swings. Avoiders must learn to open up and communicate their feelings honestly in order to establish good, long-term relationships. Did you find yourself in these? Or maybe you have more to share about? Leave it in the comments down below. And as always, please be sure to share this video with others and press the like button, cause YouTube algorithm likes it. With your help we can reach more people to spread awareness of the mind, mental health issues and self-improvement. Let's make psychology and self-growth as accessible as possible for everyone.